Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Food Freedom series. Today, we're going to talk about a concept that I get questions for quite a bit, and that is white versus sweet potatoes, which are really healthier. I think sweet potatoes are healthier than white potatoes, or that you could avoid both because of carbs. Here's how they compare and why they both deserve a place in your diet. The biggest thing I probably see is that white potatoes are often framed as less healthy and sweet potatoes are framed healthier, but then, sweet potatoes, we talk about like sugar and, because they're sweet, is it bad? So I see a lot of different questions, and I could see why the white potatoes would get a bad rep because we use them in like French fries and things like that, which tend to be less healthy, but they both have benefits, as it says here. So potatoes and sweet potatoes share a name, but botanically, they're actually unrelated. So we have potatoes here. This looks like the Latin term classification. Then we have sweet potatoes. The regular potatoes actually come from the Solanaceae plant family. I'm going to butcher these names. And this one comes from Convolvulaceae plant family. So plant relatives to the potatoes are tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and deadly nightshades. The relatives to the sweet potato are morning glories and other vine trees, shrubs, and herbs. So not yams, which is very interesting because when I have a yam and a sweet potato, I do not know the difference. I don't know if it's like a genetically modified thing, but I can never tell the difference. But so you could see the potatoes are more veggie based. The sweet potato, it's more like herbs, trees, that kind of deal. There's 4,000 known varieties of potatoes and 5,000 known varieties of sweet potatoes. It's pretty crazy. The edibility, leaves and stems and potatoes that have turned green produce solanine, which is poisonous. I actually didn't know this before I looked over this infographic. This infographic is from my nutrition certification company, which is Precision Nutrition. I use all their stuff because they have great information and I love how they break it down. But then the sweet potato, the leaves are edible and nutritious. Very interesting. And sorry if you hear Banks being chaotic in the background. So that's interesting to know. Now, the claim that we hear a lot is sweet potatoes are the superfood of the world. Everything's like sweet potato, French fries, That way, if you're eating sweet potato fries versus regular fries, you're so much healthier. If all you want is vitamin A, then sure, sweet potatoes win. But when you pit them against white potatoes for overall nutritional value, it's a virtual tie. Very similar to white rice and like jasmine rice or brown rice or long grain rice, wild rice. They're very similar. So if we take these two, it does, the potato has a little bit more calories. It has the green check here for which one wins out. So a little bit more protein in the regular potato, fat's the same, a little bit less carbs in the sweet potato. Significantly, I'd say, 10 grams, that's pretty good. So it's a little bit leaner. Fiber's exactly the same. Percentage of recommended daily intake, you're going to get vitamin A, vitamin C, but then you get vitamin B and folate from regular potatoes. Thiamine, riboflavin, B vitamins. It's very insignificant though, 1% more, 2% more. Niacin, just doing the comparison here, so nothing too significant. A little bit more potassium in the potato. I really thought sweet potatoes had more potassium. Iron, copper. See, I thought all these things would be sweet potatoes, and then manganese. So overall, I'd say sweet potato is slightly leaner. I mean, it's 60 calories less, slightly lower carb, and, looking at this, but way higher in vitamin A. Looking at this, it makes sense as to why competitors go for the sweet potato versus a regular potato for prep, because they are somebody that needs to look at, down to the calorie, down to the grams. Sometimes it's plus or minus 5 grams for their macros. It's very strict. If that, they might try to get down to the gram. So in that instance, where the grams count and the calories count, sweet potato might be a better option. But, for the everyday person, this isn't going to throw you off a whole lot for your goals, okay? And it looks like they weighed different portions of the potato as well, which is interesting to note. Like, they weighed the regular potato was 173 grams, and this one was 114. So that also could, account for why there was slightly more calories in that one. And it was a typical portion, and they were both baked. Now, let's see. The claim, avoid potatoes because of the glycemic load. Another thing that I get, like the glycemic index, their high glycemic index for people with diabetes issues, maybe sugar intolerances, things like that. Worried potatoes will make your blood sugar and appetite spike. Here's what the evidence says. Both potatoes and sweet potatoes fall in the middle to high range on the glycemic load scale. So middle to high. We can see here we want low glycemic index foods to keep our blood sugar stable. The higher glycemic index foods tend to spike our blood sugar more. Not saying that it's overall good or bad, but you can see here, the less processed foods tend to be on the lower side. We have potato chips and mashed potatoes here at a 7 and an 8. Sweet potato baked is a 10. Sweet potato boiled is 11. I'm assuming something with how they cook it maybe makes the sugars more available. White potato boiled is 12, and then white potato baked is 17. That's very interesting. I'd assume it has to do with like the skin too, because something about that skin when you bake it tastes so good. But overall, this is pretty significant, I think. The scientific evidence doesn't support glycemic load strongly affecting appetite, body weight, inflammation, or blood glucose control. Total carbohydrate and calorie intake has a much bigger impact on these numbers. Okay, so that's interesting. And I'm not sure if glycemic load is the same as glycemic index. I'd have to do a little bit more research into that. But I see what they're saying here. It's more so foods with a higher glycemic index tend to probably have more carbs, more calories, probably more sugar in them. So based on the scale, it just depends. But plus, the glycemic load is generally irrelevant to health and leanness because your body or your blood sugar's response to food varies. And you know what? This is true. I am a forum reader for somebody, like I have Hashimoto's and I have PCOS, and PCOS can deal with insulin resistance. I've had testing done. Luckily, I do not have insulin resistance, at least at this time. Yay. But when I've read tons of forums about it, I love to hear people's individual experiences because it goes so much deeper than what the science may say. And the science is good because it's the majority, but I found there's an interesting little stories that I've seen scattered throughout that can help make more sense of what you're doing. So, for instance, with the blood sugar, I've had somebody take, how you do the blood sugar, you prick, and they have, I think, a device that you can wear as well, so you can kind of monitor it. A lot of the fitness junkies who are data nerds will actually wear it just to see how their blood sugar spikes. Spiking is a natural thing, but that's a conversation for another time. But they said that they found when they ate, a sweet potato, specifically to the potatoes, their blood sugar would not spike, which is fine. But they found, it's vice versa. With the sweet potato, their blood sugar would spike, but with French fries, which would be loaded in salt and it's, oils and whatever, fast food French fries, their blood sugar would not spike. And that would happen for a couple different things. The thing that you would think would be unhealthy and spike it didn't, and then the culprit was actually something else that they wouldn't have thought, because based off this scale, it said it was okay. So, different people, it can be so many different reasons, genetic reasons, environmental, so it's hard to say, okay? And here's a couple other things too. Time of day that you eat it, that's important. Medications you may be taking, how you cook it, sleep quality and quantity, genetics, gut bacteria. I think this one's going to be more important as more research comes out. Gut bacteria is huge. How much protein, fiber, and healthy fat you eat. This is also why I preach to do a complete meal when you're eating, because sometimes if you eat, something really sugary and carby by itself, that could spike your blood sugar. But if you pair it with some nice lean protein and some healthy fats and eat it together, it can actually help the digestion process be better for you and actually help keep you fuller longer and not cause your blood sugar to spike. So sometimes what you pair it with can make all the difference. And then activity level, right? This is why athletes can get away with like crushing a burger and a milkshake, because they need the calories, they need the fuel, and they're gonna burn it up. They're not sitting all day, so they're not gonna store it as fat. So yeah, it's all about context with that. Claim number 3, avoid all tubers because of carbs. This is, definitely a big one that I get. Think the carbs will cause weight gain. Actually, the carbs in potatoes and sweet potatoes are mostly starch and fiber, which help you stay lean and healthy. Yes, and you got to think of it on the grand scheme of things. Nobody probably got fat from eating too many potatoes. Maybe the french fries and the mashed potatoes with gravy and cheese and bacon. Sorry if I'm making you hungry, but it's not the potatoes themselves. There's a lot more worse things out there for you to be eating, a lot more processed, a lot more of sugar, but if you need a carb source in your diet, I think potatoes is a great nutrient dense option. You can see here like 100 grams compared potatoes versus sweet potatoes. The potatoes have a little bit less sugar, but the sweet potatoes are sweeter in taste, so they're gonna have more natural sugars in them, just like your fruits and things like that. Fiber's about the same, carbs are about the same, slightly more carbs in a sweet potato, and then starch, a little bit more starch in the regular potatoes. Potatoes contain beneficial resistant starch, which, like fiber, doesn't digest at all. Resistant starch and fiber get fermented in the gut, producing short-chain fatty acids. So short-chain fatty acids can keep you fuller longer, act as fuel for healthy gut bacteria, inhibit pathogenic bacteria, stimulate blood flow to the colon, increase mineral absorption, and nutrient circulation. This is something, like, these little things are things that aren't talked about a lot because it is very complex. So the food you may be eating may be inhibiting you from absorbing all of the nutrients available. That's why we say some people are malnourished, but they could be overweight. So you're gaining weight from these calories, but you're lacking the nutrients. So you're getting all of these side effects because your body doesn't have the proper vitamins, minerals that it needs to carry out its basic functions, so you're suffering. And some of it can be this, and that's why we kind of generalize it into eat less processed foods. Make sure you're eating a wide variety of vitamins and nutrients and fiber, because it's not necessarily like, hey, eat healthy stuff. It's more so when we do eat these foods that are less processed and they naturally have things like the resistant starch, it's going to help you with your functions that you can't get from, graham crackers or a Starbucks drink or a muffin. You just can't find it in them. You have to find them in the natural things, and then you get all these benefits. Prevent absorption of toxins, decrease inflammation, and decrease risk of colon cancer. All great things. Now that we kind of nipped all the myths in the butt, how can we eat potatoes and sweet potatoes? Tubers get a bad rap because they're often used for high calorie dishes. Yes. In reality, there's a range of ways in which potatoes and sweet potatoes fit into a healthy diet. I think that's the perfect way to describe it. Like I was saying before, you get the loaded baked potato at Texas Roadhouse with the cheese, and oh my god, the loaded sweet potato, you get the marshmallows. I have to I literally get the plain mashed potatoes with brown gravy because it is less calories than the loaded potatoes because of all the toppings they put on them. It's just too much. And then, you have fries and you have all that crazy stuff, and you can see on the scale here even, if you've watched the previous training videos, go back if you haven't already because they're great. But the scale here we have is, the green we want to eat more often, yellow eat some, and then red eat less often. So let's start with the eat less often. We have the chips, so potato chips. If you bake them at home, they tend to be a little bit healthier because you can control the amount of oil. You can use natural oils. You can control the salt. They're going to be less processed. So I would think home-baked chips probably aren't as bad. And fried potatoes, delicious but bad. It's the oils and things like that, and the fats. They're usually bad fats. Then we have loaded potatoes, which, again, like I was saying, the Texas Roadhouse potatoes, where they load them up with marshmallows and ice cream and who knows what else. And then the mashed with like a ton of butter, a ton of cream. I know when I do homemade mashed potatoes, I will add sometimes sour cream to them, milk. I'm using the Fairlife milk, which is usually higher protein. And that's it. Sometimes I'll add some butter in, but then from there it's kind of like, do what you want. So very minimally processed versus maybe like the instant ready potatoes. Who knows what goes on in there? The little like flakes. The eat some sprinkled with bacon. Okay, because bacon's really not terrible, especially if you get like the bacon bits with a little cheese. So notice we're not doing like cheese and bacon. With a dollop of sour cream. Sour cream's not bad. You can go for the Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt route. Or with a pat of butter. So these are a little bit leaner options, but you still get a little bit of like a taste. So we're not using all of them, but we're breaking them down into one. I would think sweet potatoes with like vanilla Greek yogurt would probably be good as well. Because you bake them savory or sweet. Then for the eat more often, we have just a little bit of salt. Salt is not our enemy. Olive oil and herbs, baked, it seems like there's just seasoning on there. Roasted, I love roasted, or air fried, I'm going to add on there, it's delicious, and boiled, okay? And then how much to eat? So start with 1 to 2 cupped handfuls of carb-rich foods per meal. That's the general guideline if you're using the hand portioning rule. Usually 1 to 2 cupped hands is a good serving size to start, depending on how what your goals are. And it just says adjust the portions up or down, and it could be potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, lentils, fruit, or whole grains. Individual goals such as fat loss, mass gain, and fuel for athletic performance, you could adjust them. Your body size, if you're a smaller person, you probably wouldn't want to start with 2 cupped handfuls, right? Individual carb needs, if you have PCOS or if you're diabetic or if you are more active, you're going to need to fuel with more carbs. If you decide to train for a 5K, 10K, whatever, you're running more, you're going to need more carbs. And individual preferences. Now, the benefits of eating potatoes and sweet potatoes, if you include these in a balanced diet, it helps you feel psychologically satisfied and physically satiated. It ensures that your diet has carb variety and keeps colorful food on your plate, gives you steady, slow-burning energy, helps you get beyond good foods versus bad foods, right? Because we kind of view it in the middle, just like how eggs can be bad for our cholesterol, but then all of a sudden they're like the god food, or coffee. Is coffee bad? Is coffee good? And then it helps you achieve your health and fitness goals. So do not stray away from potatoes. I think they're a great, healthy, nutrient-dense carb source when you need it to pair with some lean protein, some fresh veggies. Definitely add them into your diet when you can. I personally love this one up here, the multicolored little round potatoes. I just got some as a side dish for my food the other day. And it was, the purple potatoes, the yellow potatoes. They don't really taste that different, but it's nice to get the different varieties because they do have different vitamin contents. But alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to give Binks some attention because he's getting really bad right now. But I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for following along with the Food Freedom series, and we will chat soon. Bye.